Hi, this is Kara from the Special Needs Mom podcast.
And this is Angela from Especially Organized, Sensible Solutions for Special Needs Moms.
We have this heart for special needs moms. And so we thought, you know what, let's combine forces. And we have come up with what we're calling the Purge Party. And you can pretty much guess what it is. It's a party where we're going to come together and we're going to purge or, in general, accomplish a goal, a small goal together. So we have set this for January 27th, starting at 8 o'clock for my Pacific Coast people.
Which means 11 o'clock for all of you on the East Coast. So this is an opportunity. If you have something on your to-do list that has just been stuck there and you are wanting to move it up on the list, you're wanting to tackle, maybe it's a space or an area of your home or a category in your home that has just needed a little time and attention. This is your opportunity for you to be online with us while you work and have access for us to help you answer your questions, help guide you, and just serve you for those 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can tell like what we've designed is just this very high level of support for that project that you just haven't been able to tackle on your own. The thing that we are envisioning is that you get to leave this purge party feeling so accomplished because you did the thing. You started the year off getting that thing done that you were stuck on last year. And so it's a momentum builder, if you will. You can go ahead and sign up. We have a link ready for you. And we are offering this for $40 for the whole experience.
Absolutely. And we hope you'll join us. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a great group of moms of special needs kids. So we all get each other. We all have an understanding of what it's like to have something on our to-do list, but just we haven't been able to tackle it yet. So I hope that you will join us. We're super excited to bring this to you, and we are thrilled to work with you.
All right. We'll see you all there. Hi, I'm Kara, life coach, wife, and mom to 4 incredible and unique children. It wasn't all that long ago that my son received a diagnosis that had my world come crashing down. I lacked the ability to see past the circumstances, which felt impossible, and the dreams I once had for my life and family felt destroyed. Fast forward past many years of surviving and not at all thriving, and you'll see a mom who trusts that she can handle anything that comes her way and has access to the power and confidence that once felt so lacking. I created the Special Needs Mom podcast to create connection and community with moms who find themselves feeling trapped and with no one who really understands. My intention is to spark the flare of possibility in your own life and rekindle your ability to dream. This isn't a podcast about your special needs child. This is a podcast about you. If you are a mom who feels anxious, alone, or stuck, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Hi, welcome back to the Special Needs Mom podcast. Today we have an interview style episode, and my special guest is just a beautiful mom of a little girl named Violet. Don't you love that name? And she comes to us just really sharing her story, sharing her journey so far. And I think what you're going to really appreciate about Courtnay is just her real authenticity and her willingness to be open about her journey and the areas that she's still in process on and the things that she doesn't yet know as she steps into the role of being her daughter's mother. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to Courtnay Schadtle. Courtnay, welcome to the show. I am so glad that you were patient as we figured out a scheduling time and persistent as we had to reschedule. I'm so glad you're here today. What's it like to be here this afternoon/evening for you?
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited to chat with you and to just talk about our story and our journey.
I'm glad that you feel that way. It's actually been a little bit since I've recorded an interview style podcast. And for me, I get the experience of leaving just very connected. So it's interesting because at this time, it's a pretty crazy time in our life, in my family's life. And for me, there's a gift in being able to connect. So thank you so much for showing up today. So actually, let's hear a little bit about your story. You've obviously shared a little bit with me, but when you think about being a special needs mom, what comes up for you when I ask you to say, why don't you share a little bit about how and why you identify as a special needs mom?
Yeah. So my daughter was born prematurely. Her heart rate just kept dropping in utero, and they didn't really know why. Everything else was picture perfect. Plus, I had preeclampsia. But when she, was born, she had a stroke at birth. They don't know why, what caused it, or exactly, pinpoint when it happened. So right from there, I knew things were going to be challenging and having to balance therapy schedules and doctor's appointments. And especially where I'm from a rural town, the best hospital that specializes in children is almost 2 hours away. So that's traveling a lot and, just adapting to her and just learning her and making the world adapt to her and her needs.
At what point did you learn that she was going to have special needs and disabilities?
We learned pretty quickly. It was probably about a few days after they did a head ultrasound. And that's when they discovered something just didn't look quite right, which then led to the MRI, which then showed her brain bleed. So we knew right from there that she would have risk factors of potentially having seizures. She's on the risk for cerebral palsy, global developmental delay. And it was just really a waiting game because was so young. You don't know until they start growing and developing.
Yeah, definitely. And how old is she now?
She is 16 months.
16 months. So she's still quite little or young.
Yes.
Do you remember, I imagine you were still at the hospital. Do you remember what was going through your brain and what it was like, those moments that you learned, like especially of the brain bleed?
Mm-hmm.
Take me back to those moments and what was going on for you.
It was a lot of feeling like I failed her. My body failed her. It was supposed to keep her safe and healthy and secure in there. And it failed me. It failed her. Just a lot of that guilt and shame. What could I have done differently? Thankfully for my team, reassured me over and over again, you could not have done anything different. It still doesn't take away those feelings though. And there's still 16 months later feelings that I have now that, I still failed her in a way. And my body did, not protect her like it should have.
It sounds like you actually voiced some of those thoughts and feelings at the time. It sounds like to the staff.
Yes.
Is that something that was natural and easy for you to do? Or was it one of those things where it was just like, it was all so intense, it just was happening. You weren't really even maybe thinking about it.
Yeah. We got lucky. We have a really good team. And I felt just such a strong connection with them right from the start. And her neurologist, with me and my husband, both having healthcare backgrounds, she knew going in, she could be upfront, honest. She didn't have to sugarcoat anything. So I felt very comfortable with her sharing with her how I was feeling. And she too could just tell by my face that I had that guilt and we just had that good connection. And we still do to this day.
That's pretty amazing. So what's your background? So she's your first child. Yes.
Yep.
And so what was your background going into the experience of being a mom?
Well, for up until the last 2 years, I was a certified nursing assistant.
Got it.
So, and I've worked in hospitals and group homes and long-term care facilities. So,
do you think that having been so kind of well acquainted with hospital speak, obviously the industry, how do you think that might have impacted your experience kind of being then a customer, if you will?
To us, it helped us from being, and no shame to any of the moms or dads out there who are quick to jump on Google. We didn't get into that Google spiral of, doom and gloom and worst case scenarios, because they said something to us and we were like, oh, okay, we know what they're talking about. We might not know all the details, but we have a clue. We've heard that terminology before. Or, when they say, oh, she could have seizures, it wasn't like, oh my God, and, freaking out and worrying, because I've seen them. My husband has seen them. So we knew what they looked like. And as much as we don't want it to happen to our child, even though it has, it's just one of those, okay, we know what to do. Just bump right into what we need to do during that time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because it's like, I think there's probably a clever saying about this that I'm basing it off of, but I feel like we fear what we're not familiar of or familiar with, I guess would be proper English. And so it's like, even though like you having seen a seizure is very different than somebody thinking about what a seizure might be like. I'm actually experiencing that now. Because technically my son has cancer. And in my mind, I always felt like him having cancer is so different of an experience than I thought it would be like to be so close to cancer. And I do think his case is very different than a lot of people experiencing cancer. But I feel like it's like, even like, so he's going through radiation right now. And even like, you know, it was just this vague term that I understand. I understood that it had to do with like, you know, beaming energy into people's bodies, but nothing beyond that. And so anyhow, I think it's interesting when we become familiar with something, how it changes our relationship to it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So I want to actually go back to the guilt that you were talking about a minute ago. And the question that came up for me is, because you shared, thankfully, that it's something that still comes up for you 16 months later. You're like, it's still back there a little bit. And my curiosity was, do you think that that guilt is ever something that you will be free of?
I personally don't think so. I think it will be something that happens less and less, like comes up to the front of my mind less and less. But that's something that's always going to be there. I mean, it's part of our story and it's a part of her birth. So something that's just never going to be forgotten, but it's just going to kind of keep getting pressed down just a little bit more.
Well, I'm going to challenge you on that idea. And really what I want to do is I want to put in the possibility that you can experience her birth and of course the trauma of it, right? Like that will always be your experience, and the sadness and the grief that was part of that and will be part of her life moving forward and your experience parenting her. However, what you shared was really brilliant, that you have this thought, this belief that your body failed her or your body failed yourself or keeping her safe. And I think you even shared, part of you knows that that's not true. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah.
Right. But then there's the part of you that thinks it could still be true a little bit. And that's the part that's creating the feeling of guilt. And so right now, if you kind of look at like this as a spectrum of belief, you've moved from fully believing it, which is where you were when you were fortunately voicing it, right? Not letting it be a secret, which is so, so wonderful. And now you're maybe in the middle, if you will. There's part of you that can say, no, it's not true. And like you said, some days you're good, sometimes you're there, and some days you're not. But I want to just put in the idea, the possibility that at some point you'll be able to fully be free from that guilt, because you will so clearly know that you have no responsibility, or your body did everything that it could, right? No, so anyhow, I just want to put that in there.
Yeah. No, very, very true. Definitely good little nugget to put up there and remember.
Yeah, because I think sometimes I was actually listening to a podcast earlier today. It's about redeeming heartache, actually. And she was talking about our ability to like imagine a future. And oftentimes we don't even imagine something that is good in the picture or in the future, excuse me. And I feel like just consider that if you don't imagine, and you know, the reason I want to focus on this idea of guilt is because you are not alone. You are not alone and actually experiencing the weight. Guilt is a very heavy feeling for a lot of us. And when we're already carrying like this heavy load as far as getting to the therapies and all that, we got to shed that weight, right? Like, because then we have to make room for all the other spectrum of feelings that it takes to raise these children and to be their mother and all the things. Right. But anyhow, the idea that if you can picture a future where it's possible that you are free of guilt and that you fully know that, and even just accept like that everything happened as it was supposed to happen, which is hard to say when
it is.
It's hard to say, because I don't say that lightly, like, oh, it's all supposed to be this way. But when we recognize that it is what it is, and not from a it is what it is kind of energy, but just like, this is your life, this is her life, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a little mind-boggling. I know what I'm saying here is like, what are you talking about, Kara? But I guess I just want to, again, I want to presence you and myself and all of the listeners to really challenge these thoughts that we automatically have and that a lot of society accepts. So any other thoughts that come up as I kind of talk about these ideas?
Well, one thing, like my husband tries to remind me all the time too, when I'm feeling guilty or whatever, is that the power at be, whatever you believe in, he will never give you more than you can handle.
How does it feel when he says that?
Feels like a little bit of relief, but I can really just kind of get myself to think about it. And, okay, I have an idea of, medical stuff, like I've mentioned, and she has these things and that's beneficial to her, and just, I can handle it. I've seen it. It's okay. It's just a nice reminder that you can always handle what he's given you.
Well, the reason I asked how does that feel is because I think for some of us, it can feel freeing, like you said. And for some of us, I think it can be almost when I hear that, I'm like, well, okay, why pile so much on me then? Okay, I get it. I can handle it, but let's ease up a little bit, God. Okay.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah, we're good. Okay. Point taken. Okay. I'm strong. I got it. I think the thought that's similar to that for me feels better is in relationship to God, who is how I describe my higher power, is that he will be with me in my suffering. One of my friends sent me a necklace a couple months ago, and it just has a little wave thing on it. And it says, I wish I had the exact words. I will put them in the show notes. But essentially it says, I'll be with you in your suffering. You won't be alone in this. And that to me is really powerful because it helps me dismantle the belief that something's wrong because my child's going through something really crappy. My brain will be like, something went wrong here. This is not supposed to be happening. And when I'm in that space, I'm firstly yeah, I'm good, God. If you're letting this wrong thing happen, then there's must be something wrong with me or something wrong with you. But when I recognize, oh, actually, God doesn't think this went wrong. This is how it's supposed to be. And he's with me and he knows it's hard. So that for me really brings me a lot of just peace. So
I love that. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. And I'll get the actual thing that the necklace says and the verse, and I'll put it in the show notes. And I am the worst. I can never remember I'm good with ideas, but the exact words of something, never going to happen. So you also shared something with me when we were kind of getting ready for the show, is that you have struggled with anxiety, all of your life, but especially it took on a new meaning as you became a mom.
Yep.
And I would love just to hear a little bit more about your experience, both even before having a child and what having a child with such significant needs, how it maybe activated some of that anxiety.
Yeah. So I've always had anxiety, like you mentioned, but it was always around academics growing up. Then it kind of tapered off, always still there, had anxiety here and there, really don't know what was causing it. And then my pregnancy, it started to elevate, nervous, how it's going to go. Just kind of had these gut feelings of like, I'm going to have a C-section. I know I'm going to have it right from the start. I don't know what it was. I'm going to have one. And just, am I feeling her move enough? Is she, just all the normal, like little worries that I feel like everybody has. And then when we had her birth and we got the start of her diagnosis, it fueled more. And I went back and forth in my head of, I need help. Nope, I'm fine. I need help. Nope, I'm fine. I hit that point where I was like, okay, I need to speak to somebody. And I seeked out a counselor. Wasn't a good fit. So I researched more. I knew I needed something more. So I found a practice that specializes in women in everything from giving birth to pregnancy to menopause to growing up, just everything about a female they have specialists in. And that to me was life-changing, getting to just have that diary of the mouth and give everything out and somebody to be like, that stinks. I understand. And just help me kind of process through everything bit by bit. And I've definitely come a long way. It's always kind of a work in progress and just take it as we can. But definitely to anybody out there listening, if you have any sort of anxiety or depressive thoughts, any slumps, it is okay to seek help. Everyone should see a counselor, in my opinion, because they are so helpful with everything.
I wholeheartedly agree. I appreciate that you shared the time before you got in to see her. I'm assuming, I don't know why.
Yes, it is her.
I feel like if it's a woman's practice, I feel like it would be,
right?
I don't know. I mean, I guess a man could do a great job, but I don't know, whatever. But just the dialogue in your head. I need help. Nope, I'm fine. I need help. Nope, I'm fine. And because I actually think that, I think a lot of people are having that conversation. And so for you to voice that and to then also be unstoppable when you said, I actually am going to get help. And that you had a flop first, but you didn't make that mean that you didn't need help anymore or that help wasn't available. You continued fighting to find the help that you needed. So I really want to acknowledge you for that and just highlight that for like, this is a really beautiful example of being the mom that takes care of herself so she can be the mom who takes care of this child. So amazing work.
Thank you.
So what's your experience now that you're working with someone, imagine on the top, I'm through anxiety. Yes. What's your experience and relationship with anxiety now?
It's still there, but it's definitely not anywhere near it was. I'm somebody who would have the physical symptoms with anxiety too, the shaking, the hyperventilating, the body aches. And I don't have those necessarily anymore. There's definitely breakthroughs. But, I still have the thoughts of kind of a little doom and gloomy, or I just don't want to do anything. I just want to lay down with her, kind of cocoon ourselves. But I allow myself those days or those, okay, we're going to take this afternoon and we're just going to snuggle and do nothing and just kind of watch movies and do whatever. But then, okay, it's time to get up tomorrow and we're going to, move along. And it's okay to let yourself kind of have those low key moments. But I have gotten the coping mechanisms and the skills to not let it consume everything anymore.
I love that because I'm somebody that also, I should say I'm somebody that has a very hard time with that, like just laying down and relaxing part of life.
Yes.
And I see some people in my life that are really good at that. And like their work might be to like, maybe get off the couch more. But I look at them doing that. I'm like fascinated. I'm like, that's just so amazing to me to watch people be really good at that. And I don't know that I would call it envy. It's really just like fascination. Like how do they do that? That's amazing. Okay. So anxiety. I think that's another thing that I think it just comes up. I mean, I think we happen to be a very anxious culture, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And I think it's just a recipe for extra anxiety, I think, living the life that we do with the medical challenges and just all the things that we have.
Absolutely.
So along the way, what have been the things that have been most helpful to you as you've adapted to being the mother of your child?
Just having a supportive partner, my mom's super supportive of everything and very flexible. She's the one who takes care of my daughter while we're working. And so she does the home therapies and she works with her and does all that stuff while I'm not able to because I'm working. And just having that strong support system is so helpful. And finding that the medical team that is going to be supportive and listen to you is important. I had a bump with, some of the providers, and I just said, hey, need to switch. I like you, but it's just not meshing well for me. And seeing somebody different who hears me and doesn't just kind of shove me aside and move on to the next person. And that's also been very helpful.
I want to hear more about that because I think it comes up a lot as I talk to different moms, and I know I experience that there's certain providers that we have that we kind of just stick with and deal with because either we think we can't find better, they've been with our child so long, etc., or insurance doesn't provide a different one. And so I'm really curious to hear what was it, if you don't mind sharing, like that didn't work for you of the provider.
So he didn't have very good bedside manner. He was just very rough and gruff and doom and gloom, worst case scenario, okay, bye, gone. And I'm like, wait a minute, I have questions. I don't understand. And
is this the primary care provider or a specialist?
ENT.
Her ENT. Okay, got it.
Yeah. And just I knew for myself and for her, if I'm gonna have to be spending this much time with you, I need to feel comfortable to ask questions and not feel anxious or afraid to go into this appointment or to be able to speak up for myself. And I decided to look elsewhere, and I spoke to a few friends who work in the medical field and know some providers, and I got hey, you need to check out this guy. He's the best. And I reached out and I said, hey, is he by chance taking any new patients? And luckily he was, and jumped right on. And it was like night and day. My first appointment with him was, we can do X, Y, and Z. What would you guys like to do? Really? I get that choice? I can decide what I want to do? Like, that is huge for me, just to be able to have that provider just say, here's the 3 things we can do. I want you guys to pick. It's your child. It's, your decision.
That's amazing. Actually, our primary care provider, which we barely ever get to see because we do so much with different specialists for my special needs child, he's amazing. He's very much, he listens to us so well. And he's almost just like, anything you guys need in terms of like
referrals.
Thank you. And I was like, there's some word I'm missing. Basically, it's like he's going to pave the way. And in a sense of like, he really trusts us. He looks at us as the expert of our child, and he's the doctor. And I don't know, he's got an amazing bedside manner and heart. And anyhow, I hope he never retires, but he might. Well, and so thanks for sharing that experience. Cause I'm thinking of one of my clients in particular, that the communication that she gets from her primary care provider is just, it's not working for her. Right. So it's like for her, it's not quick enough. And for a typical family, it might be quick enough, right? It might work for some families, but it doesn't work for her. And I think it's hard to break up with somebody. And it sounds like you did it in a very least painful way. Was it difficult for you to do it still?
Yes and no. The speech therapist that worked like alongside him was one of the speech therapists that we had seen while we were in the hospital during our NICU stay. So with her, I felt comfortable with her because I had worked with her before. So when I called to schedule something, or I think she gave me results of something, it was something like that. But I spoke with her and I was just like, hey, no offense to him, but I need to switch. And she 100% understood and no more questions asked, was able to get me onto that other person's schedule.
Amazing. Wow. You do make it sound pretty easy, because I feel like I'm thinking of one of our specialists. There's a lot of rough parts. There's a lot of good. And so it's been hard for me to decide, okay, is it worth it for me to get rid of the last, 5 years of history? Right. And that she's really good at certain things. Mm-hmm. And yet sometimes it's just not a very fun appointment. So, not that it's not fun, but
it just makes it more stressful, and it's already stressful and anxious enough, not adding that piece into it. And then it just makes it kind of more heavy when that piece is added into it.
Yeah, exactly. What's funny is our last appointment was on my husband's birthday. And he happened to have the day off of work. Previously, when I had scheduled the appointment, I'm like, oh, sweet, I can have my husband go to the appointment. I can get out of it. And then I realized he was on his birthday. So I said, part of your birthday gift is I'm going to go to this appointment instead of you, because what happens is the doctor kind of just reminds us of the things that we're not doing for certain areas of my son's life. And that it's just one of those things where we leave feeling kind of like deflated. Like,
I fully understand that.
Right? It's like, I understand conceptually what you're looking at, lady, but come to our house during dinner and you'll know why what's happening is what's happening.
Exactly.
Okay. Anyhow, so, okay. Well, thank you for sharing, just kind of your experience in that. I think, again, it's going to kind of probably inspire some parents to be like, maybe I need to have that same conversation too. And it sounds like you just listened to your gut. You knew that there was something out there better for you and for your daughter.
Yeah.
So you're a working mom.
Yes.
Obviously to your daughter. And is it something that you always knew you would continue working as a mom? And if so, when you learned that you're going to have a child with special needs, what came up for you?
I always pictured myself working. I now have moments of where I just want to either be at home working all the time or just be a stay-at-home mom, maybe someday. But definitely where I was at when I was pregnant and up until the last couple months, it was rough. The schedule wasn't flexible. The ability to work from home wasn't flexible. And I knew that our family needed something a little different. So I made the change in employment and at a place that is super flexible. She comes first. Her appointments come first. Don't worry about your schedule. Don't worry about your stuff here. We'll handle it. And she, just almost 2 weeks ago now, she had her first seizure. And when I actually called her, my boss, and I said, Violet had her first seizure, which we knew it was coming. It could happen. She was like, okay, you let us know what you need. Do not worry about anything at work. You let us know. Okay. I told her the next day, I want tomorrow off. You got it. Then, okay, I think I want to try to work from home. You got it. If you need to step away at any point, shoot us an email, step away. And just kind of, worked my way up to then, hey, if you want to leave halfway through the day to go be with her, go ahead. And that in itself just makes it easier knowing that they support you and what you're going through at home and that they'll adapt to what your needs are at the moment.
Yeah, I'm definitely a little bit in awe that you were able to create this so kind of quickly.
Me too.
Sounds, yeah, you're like, yeah, me too. It sounds like, I don't want to say it sounds too good to be true, because that's not the right, I don't know. That's not exactly what I'm going
for. 1 in a million. There's not many.
That's a better way of saying it. Yeah. And so tell us more about, how did you find this opportunity and how did you create it?
I had been looking, I had been thinking, and somebody else that I knew was working there and was like, I get to create my own schedule. All of our positions, except for frontline people, are being able to work hybrid. They can work from home. I'm like, I want to go there. And I was upfront and honest in my interview. This is what I'm looking for and this is what I need. And they're like, oh yeah, no problem. You got it. And it's still, I've been there almost 3 months and it's still unbelievable to me that I have such flexibility and caring staff, boss, support people around me there. It's truly amazing.
It really is amazing. And it makes me think of a time way back when I don't know, I feel like I was interviewing back when I worked for other people in my old industry. And I feel like I remember what it was like kind of having the needs that I had of my child, but not necessarily knowing how to integrate that with also interviewing for a job. And I feel like it was almost like I wanted to be like overly honest, to be like, look, this is my life. And I don't know how we do this. I mean, I think even just being, I think we're seeing this in society, being a woman in the workforce, I think, disproportionately are impacted by childcare needs and gaps. And so I think going out there and creating a job that is so supportive of your whole life. And I don't know, like, I think I want your boss to replicate this everywhere. And my guess is, you tell me, is the company doing well, or is it a happy, successful company?
It is. It really is. And I've told my bosses time and time again, like, we just need to clone you and put you everywhere. So whatever you guys are doing is amazing. And it's definitely not out there very much.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting is the connection between like who she's being and what her people are creating. Because my guess is like you want to give her 110%. As far as when you're there and just like your desire to reciprocate the kindness and the generosity. Like, I mean, you can't pay people enough for that.
No, you can't.
We actually don't talk about this that much on the podcast about working moms and all that comes with that. And so I think it's good to kind of give a picture of what's possible. So for someone that's working a very inflexible job and or thinking I have to quit it because I can't do this and have my child, think of Courtnay. Okay, what else is on your mind as far as what you want to share about your story and what's coming up for you?
I guess just something that I have to remind myself every day. Just take it day by day, moment by moment. All will work out one way or another, and try to not think too much about what could happen or what's going to be in the future, and just enjoy them and adapt. And between them and you'll figure it out, and might not look like everybody else, but it's what I don't even know the word I'm trying to say. It's them. They're perfect no matter what, no matter how it looks. And it might not look like, somebody else, but everyone's individual and everyone is just perfect in their own way.
Definitely. And then the other question that's coming up for me is, this is a not PC question to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway, is I'm wondering if you, before having a child and starting your family, if you desired to have more than one child.
Yes, we had talked about wanting more than one. 2 was kind of what our number was before we started our family.
And what are your thoughts now?
I honestly, at this point, I don't know if I want to go through it again. Because I don't know what could happen with the child number 2, and I would hate to have to leave her home to go through with what we went through with her. Again, just working through it and knowing that I don't need to make this decision right now. I can make this decision down the line and just process it as it comes and just see what happens.
Yeah. And the reason I asked that, obviously I know it's a sensitive question or a tender question, is because it's a question I think a lot of moms are asking, right? When everyone thinks about what it's like to be a mom and have a family, and we all have a picture. Some people set out to have one child, and others not. And in my situation, I was already pregnant with my 3rd child at the time of my son's diagnosis, which it was like a blessing and a curse, because obviously to be pregnant while supporting your child through his first craniotomy and all that, that wasn't ideal. However, I knew that we wouldn't probably have felt stable enough to expand our family for many years afterwards. So I was glad it was kind of all underway. And then maybe it's because I'm stubborn. I don't know, but we had always wanted 4. And so we, many years later, like I think 4 or 5 years later, we're thinking, okay, it's time. And I was blessed with a pregnancy, and I had a late term and miscarriage actually. And so I miscarried at 15 weeks, which was obviously devastating. And Absolutely. Yet still, I was like, still like I'm ready. I want to have another child. And so fortunately we have our 4th child. Even I'm thinking of a mom that I get to sit down with a couple times a week because her son and my daughter go to speech therapy together, and her son's disability is genetic, that the question of, do I have another child, is a real big one. And so we'll probably, encounter more of that. It's something I want to talk about a little bit more on the podcast, because I think a lot of moms are wondering, and there's no right or wrong answer.
No, there isn't.
Right. Like you said, and you don't know the answer yet. Right. And so I love that you're like, I'm still figuring it out. Like you're not yet recovered from, because it sounds like, you having preeclampsia, that's your health too, right? So it sounds like you had a recovery along with your daughter stabilizing in the hospital. Do you feel like you're fully recovered from that, from the physical part?
Yeah, from the physical. I still battle with high blood pressure. Who knows? I might always, but physically I feel good, feel as strong, I guess, as I can be, wanting to just be a couch potato, but
you do have a 16-month-old, so we'll give you that one.
Yeah. But, again, just day by day and to see where it takes me, as life goes on.
Yeah, definitely. As you look at who you are now, having the daughter that you have and being the mom to the daughter that you have, what have you discovered about yourself that you don't think you would have discovered had you not been through the challenges that you've been through?
I've discovered that I am stronger than I thought I was. Definitely can handle a lot more than I ever imagined. Has it been easy? No, definitely not. But I'm here. I made it through, and we're stronger because of it. And we are who we are because of what we've been through. Definitely been stronger because of it all.
Yeah. And I think even though I think many of us would still hand back the challenges that we've had, if we were given the choice, especially so that our children didn't have to experience the pain that they do. However, I think connecting to the gifts that are part of the journey is, for me, a very powerful way of experiencing the full spectrum of the life that we have, right? So it's like we have a lot of hard, a lot of grief, a lot of sad, a lot of loss. And there's this other side of the spectrum that we can also have a lot of triumph, growth, joy, happiness even. And so thank you for sharing that side that you got to tap into, like, holy moly, I am a badass. Courtnay, we're going to wrap up, but I just really want to thank you so much for sharing your life with us and really just kind of being willing to be so transparent about just this very tender time of your life as you became a mom and as you went through some really challenging times. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. It was so nice talking with you.
Likewise. Well, we'll see y'all in the next episode. One more thing before we officially wrap up this show. Sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts, I have the experience of wanting more. I'm listening at the very end thinking, I sure wish that episode didn't end. I invite you, if you feel in any way the same way, I invite you to the Special Needs Mom podcast community, which is a free group that I host on Facebook, where we as a community of fellow moms who listen to this podcast and are experiencing life in similar shoes, get to talk to one another, get to share stories, get to actually interact. I hope you'll consider joining. See you over there.